You're listening to Grown and Growing with Sonia Hamlin. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Grown and Growing. I'm excited for you to hear today's episode because I am talking to three fabulous women who are in their 40s about their experiences with dating. It's a fun conversation, and I appreciate them being open to share their perspectives on dating in this day and age. While they all fall into the same demographic, they're women, they are all in their mid-40s, and they're professional, successful women. Their experiences, approaches, and outlooks are so different. That's no surprise. Anyway, there's a lot of commentary and chatter in culture about women, particularly Black women, and dating. What's an appropriate first date? If independent, successful women intimidate men, and if women should submit, and also what is submission anyway? We can't even agree on that. And that honestly could be a whole episode unto itself. So let me think about that. There is so much in the atmosphere, but I wanted to hear directly from women themselves. Let me tell you a little bit about each guest. Roberta Hatchett is a marketing veteran who decided to pivot to celebrate her love of wine and interior design. She started VinBoheme, a wine and home goods retailer that honors women and minority-owned winemakers and designers. Check her out. Joy Sutton is a former TV journalist and current talk show host with over 20 years of media experience. She hosts Addiction Talk, a Facebook live show, and serves as a director of corporate communications for a national company. Joy is a certified life and media coach and owns her own consultancy, Sutton Impact LLC. And finally, Myranda Stephens is a former reporter turned realtor with a passion for the people. For more than 12 years, she's helped others tell their stories in the world of television news. And since 2016, she has successfully helped buyers and sellers write the next chapter of their lives in their new homes. Without further ado, let's get into this topic. Welcome to Grown and Growing, Roberta, Myranda, and Joy. I am so glad you guys decided to join me today. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Yay!
It's an interesting topic. I wouldn't miss it, you know?
Right. Yes, I definitely had to have you on here, Joy, because I know you have some stories. The topic today is about dating in your 40s. And let me tell you, it is one of the most requested topics. When I ask people what they want me to talk about, dating is always at the top. Like, talk about dating. And it's either from the perspective of I'm doing it and I'm having a good time at it, or I'm doing it and it's trash. So there are various perspectives on people's experiences with dating in their 40s, but it's definitely something that people are interested in. So thank you guys for joining and being able to, share a little bit about your experiences, because I'm sure a lot of women will be able to relate to it. So as I was saying before I press record, it has been some time since I've dated. I've been married for 15 years. It'll be 16 years in December. And I also met my husband really young. And so I have a lot of experiences dating. But in a lot of ways, I feel like when I was thinking about the questions I wanted to ask and, how this conversation might go, I was like, I am much more equipped to date now than I was back then.
Interesting.
If I had a preference, I would want the me now to be dating.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so, let's talk about it. Let's talk about, let's start with your approach to dating. Let's start with how you guys see dating. All of you are dating now. Some are maybe in relationships or at the beginning of a relationship or in a relationship. Nobody's married, but recently dating in your 40s. Professional women, all of you. Roberta, the interesting thing is all of you guys work for yourselves. Roberta, you just started a wine company. Joy is in media. Myranda is in real estate. Just women doing their things all of us are in our mid 40s. And so we, I feel like we have a lot to offer. So let's get started. So when I think about dating, and I think there are different approaches to dating, and the spectrum that I see is you either take a very passive approach to dating, where it's like, if it happens, it happens. I'm gonna live my life and that's it. Or the other side of that is, no, dating is a sport. I'm gonna get out here like I'm looking for a job. I'm gonna make myself presentable. I am going to network. I'm gonna tell people that I'm dating, and I'm gonna be actively participating in this. So let's start there. Where are y'all in this spectrum? Where do you guys fit?
I think most of us. Yes. I do feel it's a sport. I'm a competitive woman.
Are you a competitive dater?
I'm a competitive, I mean, I don't take anything in life. It just comes to me. You want something, you have to work for it. You have, God gives people, what's the saying, Joy, like he helps those who help themselves type of thing,
And so what does that mean for you? What do you do to prepare yourself? Because I feel like you go through phases of dating where you're wanting to date, and then phases where you're just like, no, I'm gonna focus on me. I'm gonna focus on my career. It's not in the forefront. So when you are gearing up for a phase of dating, what does that mean when you're competitive? Or when you're out there?
You're saying for me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've taken breaks. My go-to, and I know we'll probably get into this later about online dating, but I'll have those times it's like, okay, I'm gonna do some online dating, put myself out there, maybe try a new app or whatever. And then, you go on some dates or whatever, and then you say, okay, I probably do need a break. So yeah, I do that. Just because, sometimes you need to just regroup and get back and maybe learn from those experiences, those few that you had. It's okay.
And Joy, where do you fall?
Ooh, well, girl, I have done both. I have gone through times where I'm like, Lord, I'm just gonna sit here, and I know you gonna bring him, and I'm gonna meet him someday, and then I realized that then I'm like, no, I gotta put myself out there, and I, to be honest, have met with different coaches. I've worked with a relationship coach years ago when I went through a difficult breakup. And then I also had reached out to another coach to help me figure out what exactly I was looking for and where that guy would be. So I have, done both. And what I feel is that you do have to put yourself out there. And I think most of the time when I'm learning in my own dating process is that we're blocking ourselves. And I've had to ask myself, do I really want this? Do I really want to be married? Because sometimes we've gone through so much in our past and so many things that we've dealt with that we're blocking love. So you have to really decide, is you saying, I'm just going to wait and see, is that because of trauma or things you've experienced, or do you really want to put yourself out there? And I remember this one coach said to me, she said, every time you go out, you need to have 3 things done, 2 of 3 things, your hair, your makeup, or your outfit. I don't care if you're going to the grocery store. So I have really tried to, in the last, year or so, I got my cute hair. I'm working on my hairstyle. I'm trying to get sassy and, be cute and stuff like that. So I do think now I'm more like Myranda. I'm like, I'm putting myself out there. I know my man is there. And, just wanting to make sure that I find the right life mate.
And I think when you do that, you're getting yourself cute, you're reminding yourself and you're giving yourself confidence, and that will attract people. Like if you're walking around looking like whatever, you're going to attract whatever. So if you have that confidence, I feel like you are, the energy is felt by people.
So that's interesting. So I would say I've always dated with intention. So with intention of being in a relationship, of having a family. At the same time, I'm also come with a very come as you are attitude. Like, this is what you're gonna get. This is what you're gonna see every day. So I might as well show you that from day one. So I've always just been, and that could be me, hair done, makeup, whatever, or it could not. But I think I've always been open to dating and meeting someone because I've always wanted to have the family and the whole thing. And so I would try different things to do that. So whether that be online or just putting myself out there, being open. I can't remember a time when I've never not been open.
Right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I like that. And the reason I say like, oh, it would be great to date now as the person I am now, but also the resources. I mean, look, you got
It doesn't make it any better. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna break it down for you. If I knew, even though I would say this, Sonia, I'll make a better wife now than I would have made if he met me in my 20s. I've been selfish, all about me. I ain't cooking. Yeah, I know you're not expecting that. So a lot of that is shifted now. So the girl he would have met back there would have been different. But I do think there's something pure when you meet when you're younger. You don't you haven't gone through as much. You haven't had as much heartbreak or different things like that. And you're not meeting men that have been married and dealt with all kind of things. So as you meet guys in your 40s, you either going to have to deal with someone who either has been married, maybe multiple times, or has children. Does he even want more children? All of that. But when you meet a guy in your 20s, 9 times out of 10, he wants a family. He's still young. You're his first wife. So there are definitely, challenges. And if I said, what I said is if I would go back to my younger self, I think your younger years are a great time to meet someone because you have an opportunity to build together. Your 40s, you come more mature, but you also have a lot of different, baggage or trauma or different things that either they have dealt with.
Mm-hmm. I will say there's a lot of you end up growing together. And sometimes that growing can be painful because you're growing as individuals and growing as a couple at the same time, and maybe at different paces. So I guess there are pros and cons to both. But let's talk about it, because you guys talked about the qualities that you want. How do you maintain a list of like what you want? A while ago, there was, a lot of conversation about women having lists. And everybody has to be on all of the qualities that I want in a man are on this list. Some people do that and they say, God, this is what I want, my exact man, down to, how tall he is and the color of his eyes. This is what I want. How do you determine what your list of must-haves are when you're dating? Has it changed over time?
It has for me.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I've gone from the more superficial, so I've gone from the more, it has to be tall and has to be, it's become less about the looks and more about the character, definitely top of my list now is kindness and like honesty, integrity.
Yes.
Used to be, honestly, the 2 qualities that would like win me over before was beauty and intelligence. You just had to be smart and beautiful and yes, sir. But now, no. If you're not kind-hearted and like, just have a good character about you, nah.
What about you, Myranda?
I agree. I mean, I was never one of those people that had that list in terms of height. I know somebody on here did, a couple. Now that I know Roberta, Joy's guilty of that too.
I dated short men. My college boyfriend was short.
My ex-husband was short.
But y'all like tall guy. I didn't care. Yes. I didn't care. I've never cared about that kind of stuff. I never had a list like that. But yeah, I agree with Roberta. It's like the character part. I mean, I have always dated guys of all different, like some great lookers and some not so great, but honesty and integrity, those things outweigh, anything else, hands down. I always like the guy who's funny, So that's still important to me.
Yeah.
That's still a must. I mean, it's not a must have, but I just know that typically worked for me. Everything else I'm more open to now. We don't have to be always alike. We don't have to have all these similarities. Like, it's okay. As long as you're honest and have the basic qualities, those fundamentals, then we'll be fine.
Right. But let me caveat. This is a partner. This is like a person that I'm dating. This is not a best friend or a friend. Like, I'm still going to want to see you naked. Like, if I can't envision you naked, then this is not going to work.
I agree. And that's something that my pastor has always said too. Like, and I agree. I do want to make that clear. That you may not be a looker to everybody else, but I need to be attracted to you. Yes, that's very important.
Well, I would say for me, which is really interesting, and not the most important, but it's number 2 is intelligence. I have to have somebody that I feel we're on the same intelligence level, or you're smarter. So that, even besides like all of the other things, I want to feel like I can come to you and be like, you know, here's my problem, or let's talk about this. So intelligent men are so sexy to me. If you are intelligent, you will win me all day long. If you know words I don't know, I'm gonna be like, really? Say that again. Like, what you say? I don't even know that word. You know what I mean? So to me, I really, and I think that's because my dad was like that, who was a very intelligent man. And so that is one of the things that I think has moved up my list. And because before I would meet guys and I'd be like, I can fix them up. You know, he may not be that smart, but we can work on him. You know, he's fine though, you know, so, but as I've gotten older, you know, first of all, does he love God? That's important to me. Second of all, you know, like I said, is he intelligent? Can I trust this man to run our household? Or am I going to be constantly questioning his decision making? Do I trust him in that level? And then, you know, just someone that also, one thing that's really been big for me is, do our purposes align? Because for me, I really want someone who's like a purpose partner. Like, we are, not only are we lovers, not only are we best friends, but we're in purpose together. Like, there's some purpose or impact we're meant to have on the world together as a couple. So that is another thing that is added to my list.
That's amazing. And I think, you know, one of the things that you touched on, Joy, is, you know, women looking at men at their potential versus, you know, I think when you're younger, you can look at a man and say, you got a lot of potential. I hope it pans out. But when you're older, I feel like
I can see him doing that. Oh, I can encourage, I can support him into doing.
I can build him up to get to that point. And I don't really know how good how good that is. I mean, when you're young, you have to look at potential, right? You have to look at, you know, how they may see the rest of their lives going. But when you're older, you know, to me, you have to look at potential in a different way. Like, what's
your retirement? No, I'm kidding. You got the benefits?
Honestly,
no, I'm kidding.
No, that's true.
Long term.
I ain't joking. That is true.
Do you have a government job? No, I'm kidding.
Do you have a job? No, I feel like,
no, I said a government job, because then we know you get long-term benefits for life. Were you in the military?
And you won't get fired.
You're not playing.
That's a little right. I don't ask that, but you know, you're thinking, are you gonna be able to retire?
well, so along with that, so do you guys kind of lead with your head or your heart when you are looking at a guy and you're like, this could be the one? Are you like, or this is not the one, this is the person I want to explore more, date exclusively? Are you looking for, are your feelings more aligned with stability, friendship, safety, or are they butterflies, fireworks? Like, how do you know you want to, like, this is the signal that I really like this guy? And is it good or is it bad? Because you could, you know, have these feelings and then, you know, from experience, like, ooh, I know, but I can't trust that. I love the fireworks, but how do you lead with more your head or your heart?
My head still. I lead with my head. I mean, because then the heart will follow, I feel. I mean, you know, because we need to be in alignment on certain things. But the heart comes into it. It's like there are phases to love, you know. You know, you have that instant attraction, or maybe the attraction isn't physical or whatever it is. There's just phases. And like they say, the honeymoon phase, that ends, then what? You know, so I think the head is still very important, and more important, especially now, because I'm thinking, okay, I'm a certain age and I got goals and I'm not wasting time anymore.
Yeah.
I've done
you
that.
have something to lose. You don't have time. Yeah.
Yeah. I am not 25 anymore. So
you realize
this is a hard question, Sonia, because I'm gonna be real with you. There's nothing like the butterflies. It is, like when you have that feeling for somebody, it's hard to, you put your head in it, but the feeling of that butterfly or that connection or that it is a driving force. I'm still working on that, because if I meet someone that gives me that feeling that I just like you can feel them, like in your gut, you know, like that warm, that is hard So I would say that I do go by feeling, because I think what I'm learning is, yes, I should listen to my head. And maybe this is where I'm wrong in some ways, but our bodies, God gave us our bodies. They tell us things. They tell us when we're in danger. When you're in danger, you can sense it, like in your being. So I also think that when you're looking at someone, that there should be a feeling that there's a connection. There's like a soul connection. And so that feeling of butterflies, not to say it exactly has to be butterflies, but I do want to feel like that soul connection to that person.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I let that lead me to the extent that I would give, if I had that type of feeling, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and I agree with it. If I had that sort of feeling for someone, I will give them more opportunity. I will give them more time and a more chance to develop, to see. That's when the head comes in. That's
Yes.
Okay, will this actually work? But yeah, I will say that I probably will let the I'll just say chemistry lead a little bit more. Because if not, I mean, again, it's just for me. Even if it's the best match on paper, and even if it makes the most sense, and we have everything in common and love all of the same things, if I just don't enjoy being around them and sharing space with them, that's not gonna work.
You do have to have that chemistry, because I think that keeps, especially early on, that keeps you trying. Because if you ever been with a guy that there's not chemistry, or you don't feel anything, then you're a little tough on him.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
You put him through the worst ringer. You're like, well, you available? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So, but when there's chemistry, you're right, because there is this connection, and so, and maybe that's not the right thing. Maybe
I'm not saying that
hearts, but
right way, but
I'm just keeping it factual, not factual, but honest. That's what I think.
And I think the thing you have to be careful about when you're looking at feelings and gut is trusting yourself. Like, how much do you trust your gut? How much do you know it? You really have to be in tune with, what it is that you want. Can you, trust it, identify it? Because, I think, and especially our generation, I think we, unintentionally, and the world does it too every day, tries to steer you away from your gut, and you end up not trusting it, and you try to you spend your life trying to get back to that place where you're trusting yourself. And so you got to be in a space where you feel like you can trust that, and then balance it out with your heart, or with your head. So one more question about just your approach. Like, what do you appreciate about dating now than you did before? I think one of you mentioned being more discerning about this, about, decisions, and, what do you appreciate more now than you did back, when you were younger?
I know what I want more clearly. Like, I think, when I was younger, I kind of had an idea, but now I'm pretty clear about the things that I need in a person. And that wasn't probably the same as when I was younger. So that for me has changed.
Myranda?
I don't have much more to add on that one. Yeah, probably the same. The same.
I will say, I think now, before I would let things drag out beyond their time. Before I was just like, oh, let me just, give a little bit more time to see if, or to see what, or maybe I'm not giving it really a shot. Versus now, I'm like, this is, I'm going to call it. But what I mean? Like, and feel okay with that. Not feel like I'm letting someone down. Not feel like, oh, I feel bad to disappoint or whatever. It's gotten to the point where if I'm dating someone, and like fairly early on, I'll say like within, the first 3 or 4 weeks, if I feel like it's not working, but hey, there's been situations where like I didn't feel like it was working, but I was like, you know what, this person might be good for my other girlfriend over here. Like, I don't have that ego anymore where where before I think that would have like hindered me, or like that would have like made me feel away. No, I don't, I'm sure enough in myself and what I'm capable of and what I want, that I don't have those kinds of things anymore.
Ooh, that was so good what you said. Because you think about it, like as you get older, the timeline. Because before, if I met a guy in my 20s and he wanted to date for 2 years, cool.
Mhm.
I'm not in no rush. Well, we got time. Let's enjoy
Right.
ourselves.
Right.
Let's get down the road and hold hands. Now I'm kind of like, okay, if I'm in and it's getting to us, if we had a year and nothing has happened from a serious standpoint in terms of like we're courting to the point of marriage, I'm done.
Mhm.
I wouldn't do a long-term relationship at this point without a serious commitment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there is a time limit. The same thing you said, kind of to me, there is a time limit. And I think you're worthy of that. I'm not just going to keep entertaining you. Like I'll keep entertaining you to a certain point, but then I'm going to look at myself and say, okay, is it time for me to
Mhm.
open back up and put myself on the market? And so I think that's really critical.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The
And not for
market.
nothing, I think
The
men-
market, girl, it's a market.
it is the market. And I think men out here kind of feel, not all of them, but a lot of them feel the same way. They're just like, yeah, I don't, a lot of them will play around. It also depends on what city, what market you're in. And there's a whole lot more playing in some areas and other areas. But I think men, for the most part, are the same. They're just like, yeah, we're not going to just sit here and do this for 5 years.
All right,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about the dating pool. Like, let's talk about the dating scene, the men, like who, like, describe the date. Like, if you could use one word to describe the dating scene in the city that you're in, Roberta, you're DC, Miranda, Maryland, Joy, Tennessee. How would you describe the scene, the dating scene where you are?
I would say, go ahead, Miranda.
Hidden. I don't know
That's
where,
what I was going to say. I was going to say, where they at?
where is it? Seen.
I've had to do online dating that's helped me to open up my pool and meet guys I've met guys from DC, I've met guys from Maryland, I've met guys from Florida and Atlanta, like all over. But in Nashville, I'd be like, where they at? Where they at? So that would be, that's
Now,
not the word.
Now, Roberta and Miranda, y'all are in DC, like DC area,
Oh.
DMV, like.
I guess maybe I'm not understanding the question right. When you say the dating scene,
Mhm.
Okay, then I'll say online if you want one word.
Okay.
Is that what you?
Yeah. Or is it like hard? Is it easy? Is it fun? Is it, you gotta have your head on swivel to to make sure, you don't get caught up.
Right.
How do you describe, and I know online probably, and we'll get into that. It plays a huge part in it, which I think is pretty awesome. That
Because you haven't played in this, girl. Okay, we'll get into that. I will say the dating scene, if it were, so it depends. So we're talking like 40s, right?
Mhm.
And we're talking women and men in their 40s. I will say it's disjointed. I will say that the men who are like early to mid 40s, they're not on the same page as women in their early to mid 40s.
Where are they? What
They're-
page are they
From
on?
my experience, they're way younger. They're looking at women, they're dating women that are like 30 to 35, if not younger.
That hasn't been my experience. But I don't want to get ahead of the online dating part.
Mhm.
So I'll just say, like, I'm Roberta Moore, you're in in DC, you're in the high area, everything's moving and shaking. I'm kind of closer to the Baltimore side, a little slower. But I mean, I'm just also not really into it because I have a career that I'm really, I got a business that I'm really focusing on, and I got a kid, and I got, so I'm not even really in tune truly with the true traditional dating scene. I don't know, that's a whole other story, I guess. So
Right.
I mean,
I can't.
I say that to the extent that I'm observing this full disclosure, like I'm in a relationship, and I wasn't looking for the relationship, to be honest with you. I was open to it, but I wasn't looking for it. And it's not what I imagined. Like, he's much younger, and I met him online, but not like dating app. I met him on Instagram. Like, you know what I mean? So it was just a whole different context. So the perspective that I give of the dating scene and the comment that I made was more from observation of so me being back outside after the pandemic and seeing how people are moving and seeing who's doing what and in social situations. That's just my observation.
Mm-hmm. So Roberta, you tapped on something interesting there. I was gonna bring it up, not in your case, but you are dating somebody younger. He's in a different generation than us. And so have you guys expanded like who you're open to dating, race, age, income level, cities? I mean, Joy, you mentioned various cities that you are open to dating in. How has that changed? Are you guys open, and how different are you willing? How much has your list changed over the years?
Yeah, I've, like Roberta, back in the day, there was a thing, oh, I only date guys older than me, because I was like, guys mature, slower than
Mhm.
women, if they're not on our level. So things in my life just kind of opened it up where I'm like, oh, I'm dating a guy 5 years younger than me. Like, and it wasn't intentional. It was just how it happened. That was, so that opened up my mind. And then, yes, as I've gotten older, I'm trying to be more open. There are certain things that I'm like, yeah, I still don't, just because it's commonalities when it's talking about race, or I don't know. There are certain things I'm like, I'll do this. I made one baby step, but there's just certain things I just know where I know where I'm at. I know what I'm comfortable, but at the same time, yes, I'm still also trying to be open to other things.
And I think it's okay to say you want to date a Black man, and that's your that's your preference, and that's what you would like to do. Now, because of the way the world works, who knows if that'll happen? You can have all that intention all day, but who you're attracted to and what happens takes you by surprise sometimes.
And I was also going to say, for me, I probably, because I've kind of realized that at the point I am, I'm probably not going to have children, and I'm okay with that. So I have found that when you date younger, or when I've gotten guys, and that probably is why I don't date more younger guys, is that they do want to have kids, most of them, and they still want to have that family if you meet somebody at a certain age. Where I feel like I'm at a point now, like if it happens, great, but it's not top of my agenda. So I tend to stay away from or younger guys, because I felt as I got older that there was an expectation like, oh, can she have children? And that put a little bit of a pressure on me. But I think when I relieve the pressure for myself to say, I'm okay if I don't have kids, it's, if I do, great. But if I don't, I'm okay. It changed things for me. But I found if I open my range up, that I'm meeting guys that still want that, the kid thing. And I'm not sure, I'm kind of more in my later 40s now. And I think I can still have children at this point, but I'm like, ooh, you know what? Maybe I want to enjoy my life. I haven't had a husband this long. I want to travel. Let's see the world. Let's do things. Let's live it up. There's a part of me that's like that. So I would say that is one thing that I've had to put into consideration. And I think something that women in their 40s, depending where they are, and if they want to have children or more children or whatever, that is a huge factor in, who they're choosing and how they're moving.
Yeah. And I don't think it's taboo. It's funny that everybody mentioned dating younger and nobody mentioned like, ooh, dating older.
I date older. Yeah, I date older.
And how has that been?
There's no
how much older, Joy?
There was a guy that I dated, and he was, at the time I was 38, and I want to say he was 52, 53. And to be honest with you, I could not tell a difference. Like, I thought that I would be able to tell like this huge divide. I think we were like 12, 13 years, and I couldn't. He was good looking. He kept himself up. He worked out. All of them, when we all hung out, I didn't feel like, oh, I'm the young person. And it actually made me feel good, because I'm like, if I look that good at 50, come on with it. They all look really good. So I didn't notice it. And I think it's all relative based on, the mentality of the person.
And now 50 is not what I consider old.
Oh, no.
I know. I'm like, hey,
that's my husband.
Now the older night, I probably wouldn't go into my 60s. That would be pushing it a little bit for me right now. But in the 50 pool, I'm in the 50. I usually am going around with guys in the 50 pool. But if I probably were to say ideal, I'd probably love to still have somebody closer within 3 years. But I've gone all the way up to the 50s, 50s pool.
And so I wanted to ask this question because it pops up a lot on social media as a topic now. Culturally, it's obviously 2022. Women are independent, there's a lot of talk about independent women having careers and having an income and needing a man and not needing a man versus, wanting a man. Does that ever come up in dating where you feel like there is some intimidation because, you guys are accomplished, you have your own money, you have your own careers, you have your own house, you have your own. Does that come up, or is that something that just exists on social media? Do you find that, in your actual dating lives?
I personally have not, but I know of women that's happened to, there have been conversations around that. So I personally can't speak on it, but I know that is a thing.
Where men feel intimidated by it, or they feel like, tell me a little bit more about what their experience is.
Yeah, because it's that mentality of, well, you got all of this, what can I bring to the table? What do you need me for? But I think that's a certain kind of guy. I think a guy who's solid and, confident and what have you, they're not thinking like that. But then you got to remember, there's all kinds of levels. Just because you're older doesn't mean you're mature. So some, guys are probably still thinking that way. So it's out there. I don't think it's as prevalent as maybe it seems, on social media.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Well, I would say this. I think two things in relation to that. One, that I think it has to do a lot with mentality. I've heard a lot of dating coaches previously say, don't lead with what you do because men don't care. And a lot of times we as women think that's what men care about. And so I have heard people say that don't lead with it. Don't say, Joy, I used to have my own talk show. I've done this. I'm a media person. I work with HBO. I do, don't lead with that. Lead with, I work in healthcare and I enjoy helping people. That's what I do.
How do you feel about that though?
I know, interesting that a coach recommended that. I'm just
so sure, because it depends. And it's interesting because yes, it was Joy, when we're meeting a guy, what are you saying? Don't lead with that. Now, once you get to know him and he likes you, then you can lead, you can get into that, but don't lead with that because the man doesn't really care about that. Now,
I'm proud of that. Like,
Roberta and I are shaking our heads.
I think there is, here's what I would say. I think there is some truth
about that
to it because there's it depends on the type of guy you want to attract. Like what she was going after, and I think the type of women that she helps are the type that want the guy that really takes care of them, that, is like the breadwinner. They come home, they choose to work if they want to. She helps women, I think, get that type of guy that is like owning and doing stuff. So he don't really care what you do. Versus if you get a guy who's like, yeah, I'm expecting you to contribute 50-50. We contributed 50-50 on the bills. His mindset is different than the guy who's maybe a business owner and making multiple six figures, the type of woman and what he wants. So I really think it depends on the type of guy. Now, I still don't lead with it. I don't hide it, but I don't lead with it anymore. Like I may have been like, I'm Joy, I do this. I don't lead with it anymore. If it comes up in conversation, then I might be, yes, I do this and this and this.
Well, he knows he's gonna do a Google search on you.
I know, and
find out.
I know.
But I think, I guess I'm surprised by that because I feel like in a way you're shrinking yourself to be, just so that this man won't feel a certain way about what you do.
I don't think it's shrinking yourself. What I think it is that understanding what's valuable to your partner. So when a person is looking at a mate, we have all different things that we're considering. And for, a particular guy, what his wife does and her contribution, that's not important to him. He wants the woman who's nurturing. He wants the woman who comes home and maybe is going to have dinner ready for him. He wants the woman who, can run errands or support him in his business. So it really, to me, depends on the guy. And, it doesn't mean he's insecure. He just knows, this is the kind of woman that I want.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that he doesn't value what you do, but it's not a deciding factor. So here's what I'm saying. It's not a deciding factor in who he's choosing as a mate. Whereas women, it is a deciding factor often what he does and what he's bringing to the table in terms of a mate.
Right. And I think what I sense that, is helpful when you're older and not dating someone younger, you have more potential in, knowing who you are and then finding the person who fits you. And I think what happens, when you're younger and you kind of grow with somebody, you have the tendency to want to mold them into the person you want them to be versus accepting who they are. And that's how they are. And you can never quite mold them to be. And so, yeah, there are a lot of conversations on social media about dating, and it may be the millennials and the Gen, Y and Z. Are Gen Z's dating? I don't know, but it may be them, that push and pull that they have in their relationships. But
I think it's so funny because I noticed that you always separate the millennials from us and all that, but it's so funny. I think Joy is more of a millennial than some millennials. I'm more of a millennial than some millennials. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I'm young at heart. I feel young. I feel like people think I look young. So it's
of course, we all do. I mean, come on, look at this.
But I think it gets mixed. Even at over 40, at 40 plus, it's about that person, and who you vibe with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I work in marketing, so I'm always separating people by demographics.
I'll admit, okay. I'll give you grace.
All the time.
It's like you got to know your demos.
Honestly, and we're on the cusp, but we're 7. So
we're right on the edge
right on the
of
cusp.
Millennial and Gen X.
Mm-hmm.
We're Zennials.
Yeah,
whatever that is.
Yes, right on the cusp. So I think 1980 is the cutoff, depending on whoever's pulling the list.
So delineation. The only difference I will say is that the younger you are, the less you know about yourself, and that will influence more than age or whatever category you may be in. The less you know about yourself, the less you know what you want from another person or can expect, or like what can assess another person. So that I think is the main delineation. Everything else is like pretty much the same. We all want chemistry. We want somebody we can rely on. We all want, basically the same things.
Mm-hmm. And we're also coming up in a different generation. There's a lot more.
Yes.
Technology has changed. Yes. Culturally, we're changed. Oh my
gosh.
We're growing up in the same generation. But so speaking of that, let's talk about these apps now. Now, back in my day, Myranda, that's a Gen Xer. No, I'm just kidding. Match.com was where it's at. Black people meet or whatever it was.
Oh, God.
They still got the same places. Those are still running strong. eHarmony, all those commercials from all those years ago.
Is Black people meet still a thing?
It is.
I never tried that one.
Black people still out here meeting, Roberta.
They just keep,
Oh my God.
They still are.
So all of you have mentioned online apps. So what is it about the dating apps that you like? It makes it what?
Options
and opportunity. It's literally like online shopping.
Yeah, and it's bad, and that could be so bad. It's like, and sometimes I find myself like, do you want to say trash? Like, is
it the motion that makes it like, nope?
Like, it doesn't
help.
help.
I can make myself go through 100. I'd be like,
at one sitting.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of game. I haven't been on the apps since.
Because there wouldn't be a lot, because for some apps they give you a lot of men that, like, if you go on Bumble, they don't differentiate by race. And not to say I'm not open, but I'm more leaning towards a man of color. So if I'm going through, I'm just like, no. And I said, at least go to 100, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
100 is a lot.
That's a lot.
But what I really, so I would do that, and I find that maybe I'm being picky, but I would just doom. Then I decided, okay, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the paid version. Let the guys come to me, and the guys that come to me, then I choose from them.
How do you choose an app? Roberta, every time I ask you about an app, you say something that I have never heard of.
So
I was like, well, I've never heard of. I mean,
the last time I was on an app was 2019, and I used the League. And
it's called the what?
The League.
I've never heard of that. Girl, you come on with it. Tell them all about the new ones.
That's the one, actually. So after the fact, like, I don't know if you watched Insecure, but like Molly was on the League. She used the League or whatever. Anyway, so their thing is, it's supposed to be like it's supposed to be exclusive. It's supposed to be for people who are like professionals that are educated, like whatever. Their thing is you only get 3 options a day.
Dang.
So you get 3 options, and after, you go through those 3, and then at 5 o'clock, and then the next day at 5 p.m. you'll get another set of 3. So you really gotta like take those seriously. I mean, that's all you gotta look through. So you look through their whole profile, you look through all their interests and like whatever.
But I see how they take that mass market. So you get the 3, but can you determine what you want in the 3? Like,
yeah, you can set your parameters. And honestly, so I met before this relationship, the last relationship I was in, I met him on the league. And it was a really good match, because you can put in more parameters. So I will say the other 2 like more mainstream apps that I was on before the league was Bumble and Hinge.
Yeah, I like Bumble. That's probably my favorite. I've met most of the guys that I've really liked, I have met on Bumble.
And the reason why, this is why I think that's the case, because Bumble's the app where the woman, well, at least at the time, the woman would speak first, or have the opportunity to speak first.
That's still the case.
And so personally, I think more men were on that app because it took the pressure off of them to do the outreach first. And so there was a lot more opportunity for actual engagement versus just being like a free for all. So I historically had more success with the league, then Bumble, then Hinge. Then
were black men on the league though? I'm curious about
it.
Interesting. I'm surprised, because I never heard of that one.
Yeah,
I only get these 3 matches a day, so they take you off the mass market, and they're like, you got to really look, and you give them your criteria, and they're like, here's your 3.
What are your 3?
Yeah, I had never heard of the league either. My 3 would be Bumble. Number 1, I do like it was an app designed by a woman for women, and you have to make the first move. So it kind of takes that pressure, like, it's like, I always say, it's like a club. Like back in the day, I started doing online dating when I was in my late 20s. And it was like, I was on Match, Chemistry when that was out.
Oh yeah.
Chemistry, I love Chemistry. There were so many, and it was such a difference then. I had a wide gap of not online dating, and then now I'm back on it. I'm like, oh Lord, it has changed. But I mean, I've also gotten older, and the apps are different. But I feel like the Match.coms are like big club, big meat market. Yeah. It's like, get away, stay away from me. And so with Bumble, you can avoid all that. Nobody's talking to you, reaching out to you until you want them to. So
yes, I love them.
Yeah, I like Bumble. And also my hairstylist had put me on to Coffee Meets Bagel.
I like that one. I was on that one for a while.
Yeah.
Coffee Meets Bagel.
My friend met her husband on Coffee Meets Bagel.
Really? I kind of like their vibe too. And they do the same thing, give you a batch of bagels or whatever. And I even made a joke like, I don't drink coffee or eat bagels. Why am I on here?
Yeah, I don't know why they named it that. It was kind of weird, but like,
yeah, they're trying to be cute. And then I honestly don't have a third. It was just those 2. But I had tried Match.com again later in life, and I remember it being so fun, and then it became creepy as I'm older. So that's my experience. Those 2 apps are my faves.
Yeah, and I like any app. Bumble is absolutely my favorite. I haven't tried the league or anything like that. I also tried Facebook dating. I did try that out, where they said,
I didn't know they had dating.
Yeah, I did Facebook.
Oh yes. Yeah, you do.
Which was
it's relatively new. It's been around for what, maybe 2 or 3 years?
I took myself off there real quick.
Yeah.
I didn't really like that. I don't know. I just felt the type of men that that I met, I wasn't really crazy about.
Yeah.
But Bumble, I feel like guys aren't talking to you that you don't want to talk to. And that is what I love. With every other app, I find if there's no swiping feature, then you're getting men that you don't want to communicate with, reaching out to you. And then you're like, dang, should I give him a try? Let me think about it. Let me look at this photo again.
Right.
Okay, let's get it. Wait, I want to get into that because there's 2 sides of it. There's you building your profile and then the guy building, and then you looking at profiles. So let's start with you. how do you think about how to build your online profile now?
So the apps a lot of times will give you prompts and showing you what to do, like, giving you little cutesy questions and you answer them. So they kind of guide you and you kind of can follow that. And then add, a lot of times some of them will have requirements of how many photos you have to have. Some don't, it's all depends on the app. But a lot of times they will guide you. But the funny thing is, these guys aren't reading those profiles.
They're not?
They are not.
Strictly looks, huh?
They're just visual. As Joy has always told me, men are visual. And so it's like, they clearly are. It's like a magazine. They're just like, okay, I'm like, I put on here, must love God. And this guy's an atheist. Why are you talking to me? Like, so I don't think as much as you do with your profile is more about the photos for the men. I feel like that matter. I once, a guy told me, I would like to see a full body photo of you. I'm like, what? Wow. But I get it. He's kind of like, well, I want to see, really what's going on and not have any surprises. But I was irritated, but I get it. So when I'm doing my photos, I'm trying to show my lifestyle a little bit too. I'm trying to show fun photos. I'm trying to show what I enjoy doing. I'm trying to, I'm not trying to all look like glamour shots, just but real me, so they can get the real me.
Yeah. And that's good because, with apps, you can definitely change the way you look at any point.
And we all know, we look at those Instagram people and I'm like, how's she do her makeup? I am like mesmerized. Yeah. So she turned herself into a different person. So I do agree.
And what about guys? So what are you looking for in a guy? Because I know y'all probably read the description.
You read. I read.
You, Roberta, you read?
I read. Yeah. I look at both. I look at both. Like if the first couple of photos, I think most apps allow like 5 or 6 images or something like that. So if I go through the first couple and like they look, so here's the thing, photos are only going to get so far. This is what I've noticed with apps and guys, that they will put older photos where they had more hair.
Yeah, and thinner
and like and the angle, their angles that they hit is like trying to make them look taller. So like
all their pictures have hats.
Right. So I take all that with a grain of salt. So then I look at can they articulate, put a couple of sentences together. Yes. Are they, even though I don't have requirements as far as education, I do. I look at are they educated? What kind of industry do they work in? Is it something where they use their mind? So I do look at the whole profile.
Yeah. And I think that, even through the app like Bumble and stuff, you can communicate. It was so funny because you really have to do your research. I remember this one guy told me he had a master's degree. And when I asked him more about it, we ended up talking on the phone or whatever. It was his OSHA training because he worked in, it was his OSHA training because he worked in like the steel mill. So I'm like, help me understand how you got a master's degree. He's like, yes, I've taken several OSHA classes. I'm OSHA certified.
He's a master in OSHA.
Yeah. So I was like, is he ignorant?
Do you not know what a master's degree is?
Or is he perpetrating?
Oh my God.
So I was like,
So do you find that people lie a lot on their profile? Are they honest?
No.
Like, what do they lie about?
Whether or not they got hair, their height. No. No, look, listen, this
height
is
probably the biggest.
I've seen so many married men on these apps. I've seen just craziness. So you have to take it with a boulder of salt. And this is my thing with even, so when I match with someone, I'm fairly quick to be like, all right, let's just meet, because all this back and forth, it just leaves too much. I don't want to invest my time in something that could be fake or not, you know what I mean? Like in this made up person. So when I was on apps, I was fairly quick in safely meeting someone in person.
I think that makes sense. I mean, if I, when I look back at experiences, I usually, because they're usually not in my city, but I usually get on video fairly quickly. And I can't even tell you the things that men have done on these videos. One time, I'll just tell you this quick story because I got to tell me.
Yes, tell us, Joy.
Like men coming on and they licking their lips when you come on. I mean, just like that is the grossest one. Like they're coming like, I'm like, what are you doing?
That is safer than what I was thinking.
You guys or what is going on?
Like, what would you expect? Like, what do you think you're gonna get from that reaction? Like, sir, like, you're gonna get on and be like, ooh, let me see more. Like, oh, that's.
And then I had another guy do up because I am, trying to be celibate, abstinent at this point in my journey. That's just true talk. And this guy, when I told him that, I don't know how we got. Oh, let me tell you. So we were in the discussion, and he goes, "So this last year was the only year I didn't get none on New Year's, so I'm expecting to get some this year."
Oh Lord!
So he says that, and I'm like, "Wait a minute. So this is our first conversation. You already talking about you ain't got none last year. Are you anticipating I'm gonna be the wait, because it was November, so this is November." And you thinking you got to January to solidify. I said, sir, let me break it down for you. I'm abstinent right now. I'm not, you're not going to get none. Well, you need to he gave me I can't even believe it. Listen, he gave me a whole 20-minute lecture about how I needed to include that on my profile because I was misrepresenting myself as I wasn't doing that. Yes. So that, and he seemed like, other than that, seemed like a decent guy in terms of, whatever. But I'm telling you, it has been interesting. I've had some very fun. I mean, it's always fun,
So you have to, and I think that is key. You have to go into it with a certain type of mindset and energy and not take it too seriously, or else you will just be upset and like totally like just
traumatized,
discouraged. And you just have to go into it like, you know what? This is going to be a story on a podcast someday because
or just their mindset. I used to tell myself, and I remember when I got back online dating, I said, I'm going to go on 50 first dates. So then I didn't put any pressure on it at that time. I was like, okay, 50 first dates. So, he's number 4. Come on, number 6. Here we go. And
Joy, I love how you just like quantity. I'm going to try and dismiss. I like that.
But that's a way to keep you from getting so attached. If you give, so I would say that to the women, if you're worried about getting attached, tell myself I'm going to go on 50 first dates. So if one doesn't work out, there's not this pressure that he has to be the one, everyone.
So take me through like how, when you meet a guy online, you make the connection, how you take it quickly to a phone call and then a meetup, or how, what's the next step?
I think is different for all of us, possibly. I like to quickly get on a phone call. I do not like texting conversations in real life. I don't with my friends. So I don't want to do that with someone I'm getting to know. So, and it's funny, just to quickly go back to the lies, I feel like some of these guys are too honest. I've seen that they tell too much. And so I feel like my advice to these guys, get a sister, mother, cousin, some woman to help you with your profile. Because y'all need to like bring it back. But anyway, in terms of the order, I would like to have a phone conversation quickly, because I can quickly know if I want to waste my time. Because back in the day, I'd be like, oh, go out, free meal. Like crazy, I'm guilty of that. I would be like, at the worst, it's free meal.
M&M, meal and movie.
Yeah, I don't now save your money. I don't want to go out with you because this phone conversation is going nowhere.
How do you end it? Are you blunt? Do you say, you know what? Thank you for the call, and this is it.
Well, it's funny. I feel like I've had such good luck in weeding out the ones that by the time the phone call happens, we do usually meet. So then we meet. Now that's when it gets short, or it goes to a date number 2. But I have said, and the guy, guys, they're kind of like at this point too. Even some of the younger ones, they're like, I don't want to waste time either. And so I had a guy. We literally talked that night before, and then met up for coffee somewhere. And I knew I'm not feeling it. And he was like, so you feeling me or what? I was like, yeah, I can't say there was chemistry immediately, but I don't know. I was being honest. I said maybe another date, but he felt it and he quietly went away, and I quietly didn't call him back. So it usually goes like that. But I want to get to like Roberta, I want to get to the in-person quickly. so that we can know if there's true chemistry or not. Because like I said, I got a lot going on. I don't want to waste my time or yours.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, so let me ask this question, because I've seen this crop up a lot lately on social media and Facebook groups and Instagram, whatever, about what is an appropriate first date.
First date, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and how invested should a man pay for dinner? Should it be a thing, you know? And apparently coffee dates are so like, oh, like, you know, that's like what me personally, as a woman, I'm like, I'd rather do a coffee date. Like, let's do something like 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever. I don't want to commit to a full dinner.
Exactly. I agree.
That I may not vibe with. But apparently, like, men are really getting shot down if they don't offer like a whole dinner or something, you know, as the first date. That's crazy to me.
I disagree with that.
Well,
Yeah,
I feel bad for the men because
I'm not trying to waste anybody's time or money. So
Right.
coffee, we don't even have to go coffee. We can go take a walk in the park. I'm fine. I just want to meet you and see if your pictures match who you are in person. And, you know, and if there's chemistry, like if I'm really vibing. If I'm not, then I have said, and most of the guys, if I say, yeah, I'm not feeling it, they've been polite and they're like, okay, cool, you're a great girl. So I think a lot of the guys are more mature at this age too.
That's
so
good.
it's, yeah.
What about you, Joy? What do you expect? How quickly do you, I mean, you do your 51st dates.
Well, the video is pretty quickly, but usually because I'm meeting the guys and they're out of town that have been the most instances for me, it can take some time. Up to, there was a guy and that took maybe a couple months before we saw each other in person. So,
and are you traveling to that person, or are they traveling to you, or is it, do you meet up in a different city? Okay.
Like there have been times where the guy's like, hey, I'm going to come through the city and maybe we can hang out. Or if it's in a city where I have friends or I might be going there on business, then, you know, I'll do that. Like there, you know, a guy that I was dating or a guy that, you know, a friend, a special friend, but, you know, I had to go there for business. And so we met when I was there for business. So I've done things like that.
I mean, that can make it more interesting meeting somebody outside of where you live or from a different space.
And when you're talking about being open, going back to that, she's open to that about dating outside. I'm not. I'm like, I'm not going outside of the 50-mile radius of where I'm at because I love where I live. I know I'm not going anywhere. I have a child. And so that's important to me. But I get it when other people do it. I encourage it if you're open to that. But there are certain things that, and that's one of them. I'm not, you know, because I also don't like the long distance. I need to like see.
I would say long distance is more challenging because you don't get the constant seeing each other and how do you figure all that out and who's the person that's going to move versus I think a relationship when you live in the same city, it's a lot easier. But I also feel like sometimes, like with Miranda's case, I totally see it if I had a kid, but I'm pretty mobile at this point. I work from home. I can work from anywhere in the world. So my love of my life is someplace that I'm not, I could shift.
Joe, you make it sound so like
romantic,
exciting and romantic. Like, let's meet in Paris.
It's interesting because I probably bridge the two. So I'm not a long distance relationship. Like I'm the kind of person, like if I meet you and I like you, I want you close to me. But I will say the person I'm in a relationship with now, like again, we met totally random on Instagram. It so happened like I'm in DC, he was in Charlotte. So it was like we didn't even meet in person for like a few months. And I just had a like sorority sister that was in Charlotte and we met in person and I was like, oh, this is great. But it was still a few months of long distance. And I was like, neither one of us preferred it, but we were flexible enough that, we, ultimately made it happen. But if I wasn't open to that, which initially I wasn't, I had to like kind of make myself open to it. And then it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah. And so how do you know though? How do you get yourself to, so you could be, in a box or so tied to what you want and what you won't compromise on, that there's little wiggle room for like magic to happen or So how do you, navigate that and give it, give leeway sometimes to let, serendipity happen a little bit? You just don't know. It's just a feeling.
You don't know. And for me, I will say, I will go back to when I said before of that chemistry. Like if that chemistry there, that will allow more time to develop and to see if there's opportunity and space for that. At the same time, the head's in there and like knowing when to say, okay, this is just not going to work. Personally, I think it's just a case by case thing. Like, I don't think there's no way I could have predicted or planned for the situation I'm in now.
Yeah. How do you meet somebody on Instagram, Roberta?
Yeah.
I accidentally slid into his DMs.
Mm-hmm.
So like I started following him and like, cause I was just interested in like what he would, cause he's into like spirituality and yoga and all the things that I'm just naturally into. And so I started following him and he posted something that really resonated. And so I sent him a message. I was like, hey, that is specifically resonated with me for these reasons.
Ooh.
And we just ended up having a conversation back and forth that like eventually picked up over like maybe 2 or 3 months.
Now, were you interested initially when you saw him and you did the DM, or was it just?
No. And honestly, well, I'm not gonna get too much. I thought it was interesting that he was, a Black man into the things that he was in, because it's not very traditional, or, you don't see it that often. But I wasn't like, ooh, I think he's attractive. Let me see what he's about. I'm like, oh, he just seems like an interesting person. I'm gonna like, it was literally like, I'm just gonna follow him. It wasn't even like I want to be friends with him. It was just like, I'm gonna follow him. And he just really genuinely ended up being an interesting person that we so happened to like match up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If somebody's slipping in my DM, I'm thinking it's just they trying to get they trying to holler. But that's great.
Well, it happened naturally. She followed and he said something, it was more.
And he was open to, right. Yeah. And he was open to like having a conversation back. Yeah.
Interesting.
But again, I wasn't looking for that. I wasn't even, to be honest with you, I wasn't open to that because people, again, even though it's Instagram or social media is not a dating app, people use it for whatever. People will send whatever kind of message they want to send.
Yes,
so I wasn't even using for that. But like, this is where I think that the dating world, it's the dating world starts with you and the extent to where you're opening up to yourself to whatever may be. And I think that is important. That's where it starts. That's where dating starts. So where you are able to open yourself up to.
I like that.
Right. That's a good place to wrap it up. Wrap up this conversation. It's good. I mean, I feel like I can go on forever and ask questions, but so to people who feel, women who are in their 40s dating, they feel discouraged. Like, what would you say to women? Like, what does work for you, or what advice, if you feel comfortable giving advice, what would you say to women who are skeptical? I mean, we talked a lot about online dating and being open. So what would you say to a woman who is afraid to be out there?
Well, I would say, if I had to give any final words of wisdom, I have several friends that were single coming into 2022 that have found people and that are in their 40s and are meeting great men and all of those kind of things. So it makes me realize, that there's always hope, that people are still finding love every day. Mm-hmm. And when you remind yourself that people are still finding love every day, you don't know when it will be your turn, but don't give up. It happens. And Black women are still finding love in their 40s every single day. And I had a friend get married. As I mentioned, she met him on Coffee Meets Bagel. They dated for 9 months. She was, had her first child. And, and she was just intentional. And first date with the person.
And I love that you specifically said that there is hope for Black women. Black women are falling in love every day in their 40s. I love that, because the narrative, online and in the ether is that Black women have so many problems. Black women are hard to date. Black women can't find, God, I was trying to research. I was like, this is depressing. This is depressing. And I'm like, it doesn't even reflect at least it doesn't reflect the women that I have in my circle in life. So Myranda, what do you say?
It's hard to follow that. I mean, I say, for me, it's like stay prayerful, and that, my faith has grown. It's funny, in 2018 was when I turned 40, my faith just grew. And I feel like speaking to God, talking to God and hearing God has become more clear and easier for me. And so I stay prayed up in terms of what I want, because there are things like over 40. Yeah, I'll put it out there. Yeah, I have a child. I still want another, these things, speak it and talk to God about it. But don't be like in this space of like, oh, I won't do this. I won't. Be open. You have to be, it's just, my father told me when I was looking for jobs back in the day, like, when you start putting in the work and doing things, it's just something that just creates, the universe starts moving. And then out of nowhere, somebody comes, because I don't put myself out there because I'm looking for a man. I feel like the man, my husband, whoever will find me. So but putting in the work and the action and the steps, it'll all come together. But stay faithful.
Bert?
I agree. I think I will say this. I will go on the assumption that if you are a woman, Black woman or otherwise, in your 40s, that I'm going to go on the assumption that you pretty much know who you are, what you're capable of, and what you want. Now, that being said, I will say be as open and flexible as you possibly can within those parameters. Within the parameters of being true to yourself and all those things, be as open and flexible as you I wouldn't even say comfortably, maybe even get out a little bit outside your comfort zone. A little bit.
Yep.
And just be open.
All right, ladies, thank you so much. This was such a good conversation. Thank you so much for sharing. And for everybody else, I will see you next time.